feel like I should be having an opinion on this. Again, I feel very uncomfortable having an opinion
That's
on this.
what makes this so fun for me. Okay, so like I'm not going to get that many other opportunities to do this. Let's go. So
Okay.
you have to
wait until we're gonna tear apart Yentl, and then
Yes,
I'm
we
like,
are.
I'm all over it.
and then I'm just be like, fuck. I don't want to talk about this.
Hot takes, bad takes, we're bringing it back. If it's got issues, we've got your back.
All right, welcome to Cinematic Problematics, where we celebrate your guilty pleasures. I am Chrissy Redding.
And I am Aaron Maxwell.
And I am the black one, so I get to introduce the movie this time. Today, we're talking about the controversial 1986 film Soul Man, starring C. Thomas Howell, Rae Dawn Chong, Ari Gross, James Earl Jones, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Melora Hardin, and Leslie Nielsen. It tells the story of Mark Watson, who is an affluent UCLA student who gets into Harvard Law School. The only problem is his dad decides that he's not going to pay for it to show him a little bit of responsibility. So he tries to get loans, but he can't because his credit sucks. But then his friend tells him about a scholarship meant for black applicants. So he buys some tanning pills and dons a Jerry Cole wig to get the scholarship. And it works. And hilariousness ensues. He falls in love with Rae Dawn Chong, who we learned was supposed to get the scholarship. Boo. He has sex with a white woman who fetishizes black men. He gets evicted by a racist landlord and tries unsuccessfully to play basketball. In the end, he is exposed and learns the error of his ways and commits to giving back to the black community.
I'm the Jewish one, so I get to be horrified by everything.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting conversation, folks. Let's get started. Let's go back, Aaron. Let's go back to the year 1986. Let's go back to the year that this movie came out. So tell me about your experience watching this movie when you first saw it.
I first saw this the way many 6-year-olds saw this, which was on HBO with repeated viewings that were forced down our throat because there was nothing else on around 2 p.m. on a Sunday. And even being very young, I knew that this was very, very wrong. And going back to this 40 some odd years later, this was a fever dream. This was so difficult to watch. And I had to stop it. I had to go outside and touch some grass and feel the earth and just take a moment to myself and remember that I was okay, and then kind of figure out where I stood and then go back and then watch a really shitty Stevie Wonder impression and then go back outside and figure out what was going on with my life and how I came to this portion of it. And that's basically how I came to it. It was I feel so, I can't even speak of this film. I feel so conflicted.
Well, we're going to talk about it anyways, and I can't wait to make you extremely uncomfortable. So when I first saw the movie, it was during the cable days. It was either, I think I might have seen it in the theater, but I couldn't recall how many times I had seen it. But as I started to rewatch it, I realized that I knew a lot of the lines, which meant I watched it a lot. I must have been about, I don't know, like 8 or something when I first saw it. And like Aaron, it's like part of me knew it was wrong. And so when I knew that we were going to talk about this film, I was like, I know I'm going to hate it. I know I'm going to hate it. So I had to kind of go through this whole deprogramming in my brain exercise and be like, okay, you need to go into this movie with a really, really open mind. Like, don't automatically hate it from the beginning. Obviously, it's doing something that you just don't ever do in a film. Right, we'll get to that. But at the same time, go in impartially. Try to be as, impartial as you can. Try to be fair. Try to understand where the filmmakers were coming from if you can, and try to see if there's any good to glean from the film, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, when we were putting together the list of what films we were going to cover, this was really high up and almost immediate.
Yeah.
Because this film has a lot of notoriety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody kind of remembers this film unless you're kind of like Gen Z and you're not really aware of it.
Right.
Because people kind of became aware of stop showing it. It doesn't get a lot of rerun play. No one ever waxes poetic about it and remembers it fondly.
No.
And watches it again and again and shows it to their kids.
Right.
So it's kind of now in the back burner of pop culture.
Right.
It just survives off of notoriety. So it comes up on a bunch of lists of worst movies ever made, problematic movies, things like that, which is why it came up very high on our list. I think it was number 3 or 4, and I think we highlighted it on our list.
Yes, because it's so bad.
Of so bad of like, should we go back to this? And one of the things we talked about this off mic, and I'm going to talk about it here, is like one of my favorite quotes about Hunter S. Thompson is when he's wandering high off his ass through Circus, and he looks through all the tackiness and the gamblers, and he says that Circus basically looks like what everybody in America would be doing on a Saturday night had the Nazis won the war. And Soul Man is the movie that they would probably take in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, they would love it. Probably. They'd be like, oh, this is so great. Actually, I think they may have changed the ending a little bit, but, you know, we'll talk about some alternative ways to tell the story later. Okay. Just once again, I went into this movie with a completely open mind. And even like when it was on our list, I was like, I think that both of us are going to hate this. Should we even do this movie? You know, because it's like this show is supposed to be about, can we find redeeming qualities in movies that have problematic elements? And this movie is just one big problematic element. But we should discuss. I'm going to try and squeeze some good out of it, just as a heads up. And I would urge anybody to make their own assessment. I don't know if I want this movie to make any more money. I'm very conflicted about that. But yeah, let's get to talking about it. Okay, so this movie has some issues. Shall we go to the charges against it, Erin?
Yes. It's really one charge, and that's hate crime.
Yes.
It's a giant hate crime. It is very, very racist, but we can kind of break down exactly like the different points of racism, because there's some points of it that are more egregious than others.
For sure.
Outside of the fact that you've got a white man pretending to be a black man in order to steal a scholarship meant for minorities, which is probably the biggest issue. Every character in it is a stereotype or racist. So everybody on that sense is, no matter what their race is, they're also kind of just a two-dimensional, very paper thin kind of construct. So they don't really help anything. No one comes out of this unscathed. Everybody comes off as terrible except for Rae Dawn Chong.
Yeah.
She's the only redeeming character.
Yeah, she's the heart and soul of the movie.
Maybe James Earl Jones.
Yeah. The kid, her son.
Sure.
One of the most adorable child actors I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, sure. Yeah, he'll get a pass. Yeah.
He gets a pass. He didn't do anything racist the entire time.
The only reason James Earl Jones may not get, I just question as to why he took the role.
He found it hilarious. In the article that we read, he said he found the script funny. He was just like, no, he was like laughing his butt off. James Earl Jones.
Chrissy and I, for research for this, we read an article in the LA Times that was written in the 80s. Yeah, 86. And it was a deep dive behind the scenes, and the woman that wrote it obviously did a set visit, and it goes in deep as to the making of this movie. But
yeah. I mean, and the fact that people like James Earl Jones were in it, like after I read that, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Maybe he's saying something and I don't know. But Erin, what do you think? Do you think that our Gen Z audience knows about the history of blackface at all?
Yes.
We do.
Yeah, I think they absolutely do. I think that either someone told them, I think that a lot of them are very inquisitive. I think that they learn about it from either YouTube or they learn about it from historic TikTok. I think that they learn about it from their classes, and I think they learned about it in college. So they absolutely learned about it. I mean, you and I know about it, and we probably learned about it when we were very young.
Well, I mean, I learned about it because I think my family told me about how bad it was. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna give like a brief history of blackface for our listeners who may be in a school district where they are burning books, or they've gotten rid of critical race theory, which is not a thing in elementary schools, by the way, but whatever. So it started off in the 19th century with white actors painting themselves in shoe polish and burnt charcoal or burnt cork, sorry. And there was a very popular character named Jim Crow, who's kind of like this bumbling character. And this was kind of like in a response to Black people asking for civil rights. And so white actors decided to reclaim this as a form of superiority around them by making them look stupid and ignorant and uneducated. And so this lasted up until like, I don't know, the 50s, 60s, you can see it all over Hollywood movies and everything until people were like, wait a second, this is kind of racist and we shouldn't do it anymore. And so it became this thing that you just do not do. Like, it is one of the non-actual criminal things that you can do in life is go in blackface. It is like one of the things that you just don't even attempt to do, don't even try to halfway do it, don't even try to full way do it. Anytime you try to do this, even if you think you are being innocent, even if your intentions are good, it is never a good thing to go in blackface. So because of like the sordid history behind it, you just don't do it. Sorry. I just wanted to give a little brief history lesson just in case people don't know.
That is fair.
Okay. Okay, what other do you want to elaborate on the what I called the cultural misrepresentation and defamation charge?
Yeah. I just want to talk about the way Mark looks.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Because in the article, and it was written by Sheila Benson, and she makes a really good point. They don't put any effort into the way he looks. He literally looks like what was basically a Ken doll.
Yeah.
Like they just colored his skin and then threw on like a California curl wig on him. And then that was the extent of it. They didn't change his clothes or put any effort into the manner in which he spoke or do anything else. There was no other research that was put into it. And then that was it. So it was all very either lazy or maybe that was a character choice. It is really hard to tell.
It is hard to tell. And I think that like the way that I took it, especially in the beginning, because they don't make Mark out to be this highly emotionally intelligent dude. This seems like something that Mark would do, right? It seems like the way that he would think a black person would pass with a cheap Jerry Cole wig and some tanning pills. And I think that might be part of the joke, is that he is like one of the whitest guys you've ever seen in your entire fucking life. And any attempt to try to make him look black fails spectacularly.
I just didn't understand that, like, he's supposed to be from LA and he didn't have any black friends.
Well, I mean, that happens a lot, actually. Like like, I mean, if you live in like these affluent bubbles, like if you're living in Brentwood, if you're living in Beverly Hills, if you're living in like, I mean, and his family is apparently very, very rich, right? And he's like expecting like this free ride from his dad. I mean, he has this beautiful house and everything. And yeah, I can totally, I mean, in Manhattan Beach, like if it wasn't for me, there would be 400 white students who had no black friends at Maricosta High School. Okay. So there, yeah, it's definitely possible.
My ignorant ass went to Fairfax. So I'm like, I went to Fairfax High School. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, how do they not have any black friends?
No. Well, Fairfax is much more diverse than Manhattan Beach. Let me just tell you. So it's definitely possible, and it's like, look, I mean, he even said, right, this is the Cosby decade. This is reference for who black people are. It's the Cosby Show. And the thing that's funny about that is that the Cosby Show is a show that very deliberately didn't talk about race very explicitly. It was very matter of fact, right? It was just like a black family who happened to be very successful. He's a doctor. She's a lawyer. Their kids are well-adjusted for kids, you know, like they're pretty good kids, more or less. Like they don't go out criming or anything like that. And they just are a regular, affluent black family, and they don't ever talk about being black. They just never talked about it. And so that's his reference. It's like he doesn't know. He thinks that, oh, I'm Theo from the Cosby Show or something like that, and all I have to do is put on a wig and take some tanning pills and mission accomplished, you know? And so for a lot of people, that was their reference. But at the same time, you kind of have to recognize, despite what you think about Bill Cosby, that was kind of necessary at the time, because the only thing that black people were known for up until then was like breakdancing and shit like that. Like there weren't a ton of positive role models that showed that, you know, you could, you know, be successful and just be like a normal family, you know? And so very happy that the Cosby Show existed, but you know, Mark's an idiot. And I'm going to keep saying that throughout this entire podcast. Mark is a fucking idiot.
Totally fine. You're not going to get any argument from me. But yeah, to go back to that, at that time, like most of what white America saw was on television, and the Cosby Show is absolutely the only show at that time to ever show a Black family as affluent. Everything else, whether it's What's Happening or whether it's anything from the Lear universe, it's always going to be showing them as struggling, having a good time, happy-go-lucky, whatever, but it was always within this constraints of like urban life.
And that's what it was like so groundbreaking too.
Yeah.
You know, so once again, I mean, going back to Mark and his comment about the Cosby decade, you know, and saying America loves Black people. I mean, I laughed out loud. That was the first time I laughed out loud in the movie, by the way. Like when I was rewatching it, he's like, America loves Black people. Everything is going to be fine. I was just like, oh, buddy, just you wait. And I mean, but that in and of itself is pointing directly to his ignorance.
I rose my hand and covered my mouth in horror when he said that, because it was like one after the other. It was America loves Black people, and then followed by look at Bill Cosby.
I know. There's so many, so many things, so many thoughts.
things, so many thoughts. Yeah. I think that was also followed by it's just so much was going on.
Yeah,
All right.
there's so much. There's a lot. Keep going.
What else? Let's talk about the looking at his landlord, played by Leslie Nielsen.
Okay.
And then his daughter, that was Jan from The Office.
We love Jan.
We love Jan.
It was hard to watch Jan in this role again.
Yes. It was very difficult to watch Jan throw herself at Mark. That was fetishizing him. And it was very cringy. And then at the same time, she was also very young, and I imagine that this was her first role, so I just imagine she didn't really have much say.
Can I just say something? Like when I was watching like the first scene with Melora Hardin, the first thing that I wrote down was she gives amazing fetishizer eyes. Because she is looking at him like he is a slab of fucking meat, and she is like ready to go for it, man.
She does crazy so well.
She does crazy great. She's fantastic. Like if like the direction must have been, I am guessing it must have been like, imagine you are a woman and your only fantasy, like you get off on the suffering of other people, and like this guy epitomizes suffering and it just gets you off. And she was like, got it. You know?
I think she just wanted to make her dad upset.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think that both are true, right? And it may be like her love of Black men manifested itself out of her hatred for her father to like get back at her dad.
If you actually look at this as a prequel to The Office, it actually makes a lot of sense. Like this is just like Jan's origin story. And then she like goes on and like becomes an unhinged boss of a paper company, and then like loses her mind and starts making candles at home. Like it all, like the trajectory of it makes complete sense.
By the way, that if that's a sign of like you losing your mind, that makes me very sad, because that just sounds like a very peaceful activity. But okay,
of like making candles at home.
Why not?
I just feel like your house would smell like
it would smell like flowers constantly. That sounds amazing.
it'd smell like every candle.
Oh, you're right. Okay, never mind. I don't want
Like,
that.
that was like the plot point of like 3 of the episodes.
I'd probably crack a window or something. But okay, point taken. Can I just point out that there's an actual crime?
Okay, what was the actual crime?
Fraud.
Oh yeah, fraud. Yeah. Oh yeah, fraud.
Like what he did was straight up illegal.
Yeah.
Like
fraud.
he impersonated somebody of a different race in order to basically steal money from an organization to fund his education. That is fraud. That's super fraud.
Super fraud. Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't really pay the price for it, and
Not
just went
really.
on his merry way.
Unless you count working in the cafeteria as paying a price.
No, I do not. I absolutely do not.
In the 80s, that was seen as the ultimate shun.
Really? Because Rae did it like throughout the movie, and
No, that was a joke, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's to show. Well, I guess we'll get to it. What other crimes or troubling things did you find?
I think that's everything I made a list for, because at that point, the only other thing that I found that kind of offended me, but it also kind of made me laugh in a more horrifying way, were all of his impressions.
Yes.
It's more of just a crime against comedy.
Some of it was actually kind of funny, though.
I mean, again, it's nothing you would ever see. I want to say something you would ever see, but then I recently saw it on Saturday Night Live. with Remy Malek doing Prince.
Oh.
And he did a really good Prince, but then they did call him out, but he didn't do it in full blackface either.
Well, because he looks kind of princey.
Yeah, because he looks kind of princey. And then they
yeah.
called him out at the end. It's like, well, you can't be Prince because you're white. So obviously we're going to go with Keenan, you know? So.
Fair point. Okay, so talking about things that were bad that still made me laugh. Okay, because I'm positive I laughed more than you did in this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So okay, the impersonations were great. Let's talk about the impersonations first. Let's go into detail about the impersonations. Let's do a deep dive. Okay, so the first one that we see is the mom, like fantasizing that this black man is like ripping her blouse off and saying he's gonna take her, like, is kind of like the fantasy of a wild black man who is like aggressive in bed and is just gonna take this white woman and like it I mean, when I saw it, it's so over the top. It's so bad. It's so over the top. So you have to imagine setting the stage a little bit. So C. Thomas Howell gets invited over to Melora Hardin's house. Leslie Nielsen is her dad, meets the mom and the son for the first time. The son's like maybe 10 or something, listen to his headphones at the dinner table. And when they're looking at him, they each have like their own fantasy of what they imagine him to be. The mom thinks of him as like this, you know, savage like black man who rips her clothes off and wants to have his way with her. The funniest one was the kid imagining him to be Prince. The Prince impersonation, come on.
The Prince is the best one.
You didn't laugh at Prince.
I laughed at Prince. I laughed at the mom one because that was like full on Big Jim Slade from Kentucky Fried Movie is what it kind of reminded me of. And it was like kind of a parody of those like blaxploitation movies that came out. And so it was 100% that. And then I laughed at Prince.
The Prince
was because it just shocked me. I had completely blocked that out as a child. And I was literally like brought my hands to my face and went, oh my God.
Yeah. So the kid is like looking at him as like a popular black musician, like they must all be good at music or something like that. And so he's envisioning Prince. And C. Thomas Howell, God bless him, does his best
with the tongue,
Prince. With the tongue against
and
like
the
teeth and the teeth and like you know the guitar against the groin thing. I mean, it's, you have to see it, you have to be there, but it's pretty funny. And then Leslie Nielsen's fantasy is just like, whoo, oh, that one hurt a bit. That one I was just like, ah. Okay, do you want to explain it? Or do you
no,
want me to? Okay.
I don't.
Okay, I'll do it. Like I said, I'm taking a lot of the heat here. I'm gonna say it and make Erin uncomfortable, but not as uncomfortable as she would be had she had to explain what the scene is. So essentially, Leslie Nielsen envisions. Okay, so he envisions his daughter's without makeup, pregnant in like a nightgown, sitting at the dinner table, and C. Thomas Howell. It's so bad. Has a wedge of watermelon in his hand that he's eating. And he's dressed like a pimp. And he's just like going to town on this watermelon. And he's saying, hey, bitch, go get my heroin and my hypodermic needle. And he looks at Leslie Nielsen and goes, what you looking at? And it's bad. It's really bad. And the only reason I'm laughing is because it's so bad. I can't help it. It's just an illogical reaction to it because it's so over the top bad. And I cannot believe that they did it, that it's hilarious that they actually did it. That's why I'm laughing. Erin is horrified. She's speechless. I'm going to fill some air.
That at some point there had to be other people in that writer's room or someone that just kind of go, this isn't funny. Because there are people that were working on this film that was offensive. Because there had to, but I'm willing to overlook it for the sake of comedy.
Well, here's the thing though. So once again, trying to give the benefit of the doubt here a little bit because
I don't feel like I should be having an opinion on this. Again, I feel very uncomfortable having an opinion
That's
on this.
what makes this so fun for me. Okay, so like I'm not going to get that many other opportunities to do this. Let's go. So okay. You have to
wait until we're gonna tear apart Yentl, and then
yes, we are.
I'm all over it,
and then I'm just be like, fuck. I don't want to talk about this. So okay. If you look at it from the perspective of they're trying to show what Leslie Nielsen's character thinks of him, right? Which is awful, which is terrible. He's thinking a terrible fucking thing about
Understood. To give them like this whole iceberg slim kind of like, these are my hoes kind of thing.
Yes.
And like, and I get it. And it's just that Jesus fucking Christ.
They went for it.
man.
I mean, they really went for it.
just really went for it.
Yeah, they did. But it is all to kind of prove this point about how this family is perceiving him against all of like these different stereotypes, right? And in Leslie Nielsen's character's case, it is like why he didn't want any black people living in his apartment building is because that's the way he sees them, right? And so maybe the idea was to not whitewash it and to not make it subtle because what he thought was so extreme that he just didn't want any of these people around his daughter at all, you know? So that's the way I'm choosing to frame it, because if I'm looking at the movie as a whole and what I think it's trying to do, it's terrible. It's an awful, awful scene, but it gets a pass because it's trying to depict a very real thing that people like Leslie Nielsen's character think about black men.
Okay, and I get all that. Here's where my issue lies. And it kind of like, again, the LA Times article that you passed around. And if you ever want to look it up, it's called Soul Man, Not Even Good Intentions Makes This One Bearable. And it's by Sheila Benson.
Mm-hmm.
They're describing filming one of the scenes, and they're describing the scene where the two bros from Harvard are walking through the cafeteria and they're telling racist jokes to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And as these two bros are walking through the cafeteria telling these racist jokes to each other, the entire cast are watching them from behind the camera, stone-faced. And the writer is observing them and mentioning that C. Thomas Howe is not laughing. Rae Dawn Chong is not. No one is laughing at these jokes. In fact, they are all very unhappy at these jokes, or that is what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
Then the article continues to go on to mention that the director who wrote and rewrote much of the script, Steve Miner, and he's a pretty decent director. He did House, and he did Lake Placid, and he did Halloween H2O and Friday the 13th Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
He explains that basically he wanted to create a film where laughing at the jokes made the audience feel bad because he wanted to make a point about racism. But it dawns on me that in doing that, that means that he just wanted a white audience. Because you're not going to get that reaction or that feeling from any other type of audience.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that from a Jewish audience. You're not going to get that from a black audience. You're not going to get that from any kind of like minority. You're only going to get that from a white male audience, probably. That the idea that they would feel, and I think that the idea that they would feel bad would be a leap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a solid point. And I think I'm going to challenge that a little bit. Only because I think that you're like 90% right, for sure. Like, and I think that it is told from a very white perspective, which is why it's so over the top in certain scenes and certain areas. And like the entire movie's over the top, let's be honest. But I think that there's also kind of like a generational thing too. I think that more modern audiences are going to be horrified. You know, if you ask some older generations and stuff, I'm not going to name anybody by name, but I know a couple people who are like, there used to be a time when you could make fun of other people and everybody would laugh at it. Like there used to be a time when black people could make fun of white people could make fun of black people, Latino people could make fun of black people, and like everybody was kind of like in on the joke and they'd rib each other and it was fine. And we're all able to laugh at one another. And I think that like economics plays a little bit into it. I think that if you're more affluent, you're more prone to think that this is horrifying too, because I think that humor, like especially for something as silly as this, I think that, you know, there's certain things that people care about, and there's certain things that other people can't afford to really care about, right? And I think that this is like one of those things where if you look at older generations, if you look at generations that, you know, aren't as up on, for lack of a better term, like woke culture or whatever, a lot of them are going to laugh at this movie. You know, and it's and they're not going to think it's that big a deal, especially if you zoom out and look at what it's trying to do. Now, I don't think a lot of people would admit that, but I do think that those people are out there. But I think that on the whole, like you're right. Like I think that it is meant for a very specific type of audience, and how it's told from like the perspective of how white people think about black people and what their struggles look like. And you know, what the stereotypes look like and everything. So I do think that there's a lot of truth to what you're saying.
I don't want you to think that I completely hate this movie, although I do kind of.
Yeah, she does.
But I don't want to I really didn't want to walk into this movie and just immediately hate it completely.
Yeah.
So I do want to walk away with some positive things. So I'm going to say this. My positive take. This movie really makes you appreciate Tropic Thunder.
Oh my God. By the way, I have in my notes, I said you never, ever, 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 ever do blackface unless you're Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, in which case it's hilarious.
I feel like Tropic Thunder, the reason Tropic Thunder was made, specifically Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder, was because of this movie.
Probably, yeah. Because they knew, well, that's the thing. Because they knew it was so bad, right?
Yeah.
That they were like, let's try it out. Because if there is like a movie that is so over the top, it's brilliant, that gets away with it, is Tropic Thunder. Because it like tonally, it's super consistent, right? Even in the parts of Tropic Thunder where there's supposed to be like the revelation by like Ben Stiller's character, he's like, I do care. I remembered his name. I remember, like it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. It's not even remotely serious, right? So they keep the same tone throughout the entire movie. And the thing about Soul Man is that it kind of doesn't do that completely, which makes it tonally a little bit weird sometimes, which is why it's hard to grasp onto what they're trying to do some of the time.
That's what makes Tropic Thunder so much better movie, because it does everything that Soul Man failed to do.
Oh, don't get it twisted. Tropic Thunder is a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
Like there is no competition between Soul Man and Tropic Thunder at all. And Robert Downey, like, I'm sorry, that holds up. It does. Like, I watched it recently. It still totally holds up. It's amazing. And I am going to defend Robert Downey Jr. in Blackface till the day I fucking die, because it was incredible. It was just incredible. It was so good. It was like so well done, and it was hilarious. And they were fully in on the joke the entire time.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned for our next podcast. It's just the Tropic Thunder Appreciation Podcast.
Yes. Yeah. That's just definitely necessary. Okay, let me think. Okay, I have another thing that was that really bothered me in this movie, and which makes it weird and which makes it harder to defend. And I'm not sure what to think about this scene. So, his friend Gordo, who is like throughout most of the movie kind of like, I mean, he's like his guy, his best friend, but he's also kind of like the little guy on his shoulder saying, sure you should do that? You sure you should do that? Knows Mark's an idiot, but, is still there for his friend. At the end, when Mark is kind of like exposed, he's supposed to go in front of the committee and everything. And then Gordo goes up and makes this big speech about why he deserves leniency. And it's basically like the affluenza defense. And I was like, fuck that, dude. That bothered me. That did bother me. And it kind of went against what the movie was saying at the end, right? Like, because his friend basically says, he's an idiot. He grew up with wealth. He didn't know any better. So you should just kind of let him off easy, which is not the right thing that you're supposed to do. Like, he should never have said that. That speech should have ended after 2 sentences. And it's like, yeah, he knew he did something wrong. He deserves to be punished for it. And that's it. That's done. It's done. But he didn't do that. He went further and was just trying to rationalize why he's not that bad. And that, to me, is the biggest crime in the movie, is him trying to rationalize what he did because he's too wealthy and stupid to know better.
I don't see how either of these guys got into Harvard.
It
just doesn't make any sense.
He's an idiot. Like, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't think that they want us to like Mark at all in the movie in the beginning. Like, he's not likable at all.
No.
He's an absolute jackass. And his friend, slightly more redeeming, I guess, because he just didn't have to use blackface. I don't know. But he's not a good guy. He's not that smart. He's a goof off in class. Like, why would you go into your Harvard Law School class and like goof off in front of a professor that looks like James Earl Jones is beyond me. And he makes a series of stupid assumptions on his own throughout the film too. He's not some innocent in this at all. And I don't think that they're trying to convince us that he is. And I think that we start to see the turn when he starts to fall for Rae Dawn Chong's character, right? And we're supposed to be a little bit sympathetic to that because we got a montage after all. And that's what they wanted us to think. So yeah, I don't know how they got into Harvard. I don't like the movie itself, the way that it paints Mark. I think by the end, I'm a little bit, do I think he got the right punishment? Probably not. He probably got off a little bit too easy. but I appreciated the message at the very end, which is why it's weird, because when Gordo's making a speech, it kind of flies in the face of the lesson it's trying to teach us, I feel like.
All right. So you're going to go into the speech, which I think you make a very excellent point, and then I am going to destroy your point with a stupid remark at the end. So I want you to make your very heartfelt plea about why this movie has a redeeming quality, because it's very well done, and then I'm going to make.
Wait, are we done talking about the criming? Are we done?
We forgot the one last impression, which is the Stevie Wonder impression.
That is a crime, by the way.
Which is very much a crime.
I listed it under impersonating having a disability, but it's way worse than that, because it's just a bad Stevie Wonder impersonation.
It's just a bad Stevie Wonder impression that I feel like no one is going to get now. And because like Stevie's been out of the public eye for so long, then no one's going to understand that reference. And he was just not even doing a Stevie Wonder impression. He was doing an impression of Eddie Murphy doing a Stevie Wonder impression.
Was he? Because Eddie Murphy was pretty good doing a Stevie Wonder impression. Like, I did not catch any Eddie Murphy in that impersonation. It was just like, it was a weird, awkward, not good, unnecessary Stevie Wonder impersonation.
I just saw it as like a bad SNL impression.
Yeah.
It was an impression of an impression. It was just,
yeah.
It was just everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You know, that was a crime. It was pretty bad. So do we want to go to Chuck or Cherish?
She's just looking at my face in abject horror.
No, I'm not.
I'm wearing a face of abject horror.
She is, and she's like, don't make me talk about this film anymore.
It's nothing to cherish. But go ahead.
Okay,
yes, go ahead.
Okay. Here. I'm not making a verdict completely on the Chuck or Cherish angle. But here's what I will say. The movie, if you zoom out and look at what it's trying to say, now. You have to put aside the fact that it's a movie and with a man whose main character is entirely in blackface like the entire time, or 90% of the time. And that is its biggest crime, right? You just don't do it. And you definitely don't have C. Thomas Howell do it. But when you look at it, it's not against affirmative action. It's not making that argument. And a lot of people think that this movie is against affirmative action. It's not. Mark is not meant to be likable, I don't think. I mean, I certainly didn't like him, which made, I think, like the ending work a little bit better for me. I think it is meant to be a satire, which is why it's so over the top in so many places. I think it's trying to beat you over the head with a point. I think like the most annoying part of it was the two guys making the jokes. I'm like, do you just walk around making black people jokes all day long? Like, how does he keep on catching you making black people? Like, do you have no other topics of conversation? Like, that thing was like a little bit too on the nose for me. I didn't need all of that. But you know, Malora Hardin's character is trying to say something about white women fetishizing black people. Leslie Nielsen's character is trying to say that there are white people in power who are like landowners and can evict people for, you know, for racist reasons. There are, you know, you have like James Earl Jones's character who's like, I'm not going to give you like special treatment just because like you're a black man. Like, it's trying to make so many points through its characters that I think that if you look at the theme around them, like they're very true. And I think at the end, like when Mark gets exposed, people realize what he's done. He goes into James Earl Jones's office, and this is after like the affluenza speech, which I still hate, which is why it's so weird to like butt that scene up against this one. But he goes into the office and he says all these things that he's going to do to make right by what he did, which is like, you know, he's going to have a scholarship in the name of Sarah's character. He's going to work in communities to help black people. He's going to do that. Like, he lists like 5 different things that he's going to do. And James Earl Jones looks at him very proudly and says, wow, you finally understand what it's like to be black. And this is the most important part of the movie to me. And he says, like, see, Thomas Howell's character, that is, says, no, I don't, because I knew I could get out of it at any time. And I think that's was the point, because Mark this entire time he's thinking he's acting like a black person, he's living the life as a black person, where he really isn't, because he had an escape route. And the fact that was the part that sealed it for me, was like, okay, I think I understand what this movie was trying to do, and made it more forgivable for me, despite having an entire movie where the main character is in blackface. I think that if you look at it like in that sense of, that was like the ultimate lesson that he had to learn, that he really doesn't know what it's like, but he still owes something back. That I think is important. And I think that's an important distinction. And looking at the movie and like deciding whether or not it's worthy of, you know, the criticism that it's gotten. And it is worthy of a lot of the criticism that it's gotten, but, you know, I'm trying to give it a little bit of grace just because of that.
I respect your opinion. I hear you.
I'm trying real hard here, okay?
I see you, and there's space for you in my heart. I feel that it is a good speech at the end, but it is completely negated by 80 minutes of movie before that. And the reason is because there was no other thought put into this character other than the fact that it was the color of his skin that changed. He didn't put any thought into his background. He didn't put any thought into the character that he was trying to create, or any thought into his clothing, or any thought. And he didn't do any research into the character. He didn't do any. There was no thought.
But that's the
put into
point
this.
about his character. He's an idiot. He's
Yes.
stupid.
And then everybody else is an idiot. And the whole movie is just a horrendous stereotype followed by stereotype followed by stereotype with very few redeeming qualities that when you take it as a whole, it's very difficult that it could be redeemed. And the problem I have with it is not just the 80 minutes that comes before it, but that at the end, the final conversation that he has with Rae, where the word interracial relationship is said like a dozen times to the point where my left eye started to twitch. Like it sounded like he was fetishizing her at that point. Because why would you mention it so many times? Like it's obvious. Like that point doesn't need to be mentioned anymore. That was the point of it. Like they were already a goofy looking couple even when he was pretending to be black. Okay? That was weird because she was clearly out of his league. Okay, now she's still clearly out of his league. Okay, he's just a goofy looking white guy. It doesn't matter if they're an interracial couple. He doesn't need to keep bringing it up.
Okay, but this was the 80s. And that was a much bigger deal back then. It's a much less big deal now than it was back then. And people don't talk about, what do you think about interracial relations? Like, nobody talks about it that way. But back then, you have to imagine, like, those people had parents that, like, grew up in the 60s, right? And
Sure.
And that was a very different time where there were, like, a lot of racial tensions. And depending on where you grew up, you probably had a very specific idea of what black people were. Like, you know, black people used to get asked, like, if they grew tails in the middle of the night. Okay,
like, I'm going to handle this with kid gloves because this is clearly not my wheelhouse, and there's no way I can add to this discussion. All I can tell you is that ending dialogue was not handled well and was written badly.
Okay,
it just kind of threw out everything that he learned in a way.
Sure.
So it just didn't seem correct. It just seemed like, oh, you learned nothing.
Right. You know, like I think that also at the same time, it's like impossible to almost do any scene like that, right? It's like, it's just so like with the like, movie storytelling formats and everything, it's like, how do you do that in the right way? Especially like in the 80s when people are still trying to figure shit out about race and everything. Like when people, there's still like a lot of, I mean, there's still a lot of ignorance now, but even back then, like, look, I am playing super devil's advocate right now. Because I am trying to find the redeeming qualities in the movie. And I did find some, but I did have to go through the exercise of like deprogramming before I watched it.
Right.
And so everything you're saying is dead on. And by the way, despite what I am saying right now, I think that anybody who completely writes this movie off is completely validated in doing that. Like, I am not going to tell you you're wrong about that. But, and it was kind of like an academic exercise to look at it and say, like, I'm going to try and find some good stuff here. And I did find some things that I was amused by, that I found charming. And given when it was made, I want to try to appreciate the message from the end of the movie.
Because he really did screw her over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, if the movie just ended with, like, hey, man, you took funding I really needed, and now I don't have enough time to study, and I'm doing bad in school because I have to take this really shitty job, and I don't have enough time for both school and my son and everything, and threw everything off for me because I was depending on this money. And on top of that, you lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really comfortable dating you because I feel like we don't have enough in common because of our backgrounds.
Well, that's another kind of, this is a movie crime, not an actual crime. It's like what they do with women in like these romantic situations, right? Where the guy winds up being like an enormous walking red flag. And she's like, whatever, you're cute, and then they just walk off into the sunset and everything's fine.
And he's not that cute.
And she's C. Thomas Howell's kind of cute, but like Rae Dawn Chong, it's like her character. She was great. I love her in this movie, by the way. She's really good in it.
Yeah, she's great,
and
she's the best part.
She is. She's so good. But I like the way that they shaped her character in the beginning. She's like very serious about her studies. Like she's no bullshit. She's not mean, but she's just like, I don't have time for you right now. And like this goofy whatever you're doing. Like she rejects idiot Mark completely, and that is the character that I liked. And at the end, she's just like, whatever, I don't care that you pretended you were black and stole all the money that was meant for my education. Like I like that. That is something that happened throughout. It still kind of happens now, but like happened a lot in movies from the 80s.
She's the only one that didn't jump on the trope boat early on in the film because Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like the flighty preppy with like her flighty preppy boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then you had like the party guy, like everybody was living a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't that until the very, very end when she was just like, well, let's give it a try, even though you were this walking massive red
she's
flag.
like the straight man. She's like the most reliable character that we have. It's like we trust her to take us through this, right? And she, like, and at the end, it kind of falls apart just because why the fuck would you take this guy back? I mean, sure, he shows like a little bit of like remorse and everything. It's like he would have had to prove a lot more. It's like, how about let's be friends first and see how this goes, and then we can have a conversation instead of, just being like, whatever, it's fine. Like, no, nothing about what he did was fine. Nothing.
No.
That is like psychotic what he did. So yeah, I don't like that part of it either. I'm just like, her character was too smart. Like she played it too well in the beginning for her to realistically make this decision at the end. So
she's in Harvard. She should know better.
She should know better. And she's smarter than this. We know this. All right. So final I don't know if I want to talk about Chuck or cherishing it after I attempted to give a full-throated defense of it. But, okay, Chuck or cherish?
I'm going to chuck it. I'm going to pad my little chuck with like a fun little fact. Here's a fun little fact.
Okay.
Tim Robbins was supposed to star in it, but he decided not to, so he can star in Howard the Duck.
Do you know who else who's considered for the role? Okay. Get ready. Buckle up, Buttercup. Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Edwards, Val Kilmer, and John Cusack. Chew on that one for a little bit, will ya? That would have, like, can you imagine? I mean, Val Kilmer in the 80s doing blackface.
What this came out in 86?
Yeah. So this is like Top Gun, around Top Gun. I mean, he chose wisely. He chose Iceman.
Yeah, everybody in that list chose wisely.
Yes, except for Tim Robbins.
Well, I still think Tim Robbins chose wisely comparatively.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. See, you can't trust a thing Aaron says.
No, compared to this movie to Howard the Duck?
Wait until you hear the Revenge of the Nerds episode. She watched all 4 movies.
Listen.
Willingly.
I'm not saying Howard the Duck is good. I'm saying Howard the Duck is better than this. When choosing between 2 evils, you go with the lesser evil.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. You know what? Okay, here's what I'm going to be subversive. I'm going to be subversive here. And I'm going to say cherish only with an asterisk. And it's only so that you can watch it and form your own opinion about it. Okay? I would say watch it as a time capsule of some stupid shit that people made in the 80s and make your own assessment about what you take away from it and have a conversation about it.
That is an excellent point.
Mm-hmm.
That is an excellent point. I do enjoy watching things that are either banned or considered terrible because I do feel that it encapsulates a specific time period.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind that when this was made a release, it was still considered
very controversial, and it still got made, and it still made money. Like, I think they made back all their money. Like, I think it made $30-40 million, which at the time was like a lot because I think their budget was like $4 million or something like that. But so they made all their money back. But yeah, it's a movie to examine how I guess like how satire can go wrong, especially when blackface is involved. but also I would urge you to try and find something redeeming. And I found a little bit of stuff in there. And so I'm gonna say watch it and make up your own mind.
It makes Robert Downey Jr.'s performance that much better.
It does, by the way. It really does.
That's my takeaway.
Robert Downey Jr. Okay, yeah, we got to do Tropic Thunder.
Okay.
I mean, like that's I need to watch that one again. It was just a brilliant movie. All right, do we have any more bonus batter? Do we have anything? Oh, well, we know that C. Thomas Howell and Rae Dawn Chong got married.
Yes.
So they both are into interracial relationships.
All right, let's end on that note.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that one back for you. Aaron doesn't even want to talk to me anymore. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say about this film?
No, not much.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna take a shame shower later on.
I know. I think that we're both soiled.
Yeah.
At the end of this conversation, I know that I need to wash something off myself. So, well, thanks for listening, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Go watch Soul Man, probably the last movie to be made with unironic blackface.
Watch it on VHS the way God meant for it to be watched.
All grainy and weird, yeah. All right. Have a good one, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
It's in a